Alright, stop fucking around. So this is the third video in my little series on replacing the cab corner on my Dodge Dakota pickup. In the first video, I showed rust repair and we installed a new cab corner. In the second one, we did the filler work and got it ready for paint. And in today's video, I want to actually get it painted. So do a second coat of primer, base coat, and clear coat. So if you're interested in that, stick around. You've gotten the filler primer on here and it's had plenty of time to cure. This filler primer will fill in all those scratches from that 60 grit paper I used when I shaped this body filler, but it'll usually take a couple of applications. I'm going to start by sanding this with 320. I don't want to go too coarse because it'll just tear the primer off the surface. And get this sanded down, and then that'll give me an idea of where like the low spots or any defects I missed when I was doing the filler work. And then I can mix up a small batch of filler and we can fix those. So that's where it's going to start. I'm going to sand this with 320 and then we'll figure out what the next step is. That's the first coat of primer sanded. And honestly, it looks pretty good. There's a couple of high spots where I sand it through. There are a couple of spots here in particular, and then up along this body line where there's some air bubbles. So I'm gonna get the spot filler on here, fill in those imperfections. These are the areas where I found filler or sanding defects. Either a grind that was too deep or air bubbles or something like that in the filler. So I filled those in. I gotta let this cure. It is catalyzed. And then I'll come back, I'll wet sand this, probably out to 320 or whatever I was using before. And then I'll roll the truck out and put on another coat of high build primer, and then we'll repeat the process. I've also prepped the rocker panel. And what I'm gonna do is, this rocker's down to bare. So I am gonna put self-etch on the lower rocker where it's bare metal, and then I'm going to go over the whole thing with the SEM filler primer, and then that way I can sand it and this rocker will be ready for paint. And things are looking really good, to the point now that I'm ready to put the base coat and clear on it. I did also do the seam sealer on the back. I also did seam sealer on the inside of these welds. So on the back side where the welds were, I brushed on seam sealer there. And I'll show you just so you can see it. My thought being that if moisture gets in here, I don't want it setting into those welds, rusting them and causing rust bubbles where that weld seam is. This is the inside of the cab corner. Show you there. So the red is the patch and that gray line there is seam sealer. And what I did is I brushed that along the whole joint so that it'll keep moisture out of there. So here's a quick look at the rocker. It looks really good too. All this stuff is ready to paint. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. So I've got it masked, I've got it all wiped down with cleaner, it's ready to paint. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to give it 2 coats of base with 10 minutes apart. I'm going to let that then dry for a further 30 minutes. And I'm going to peel back the mask at these 2 seams, and I'm actually going to sand and blend in the paint here and up at the leading edge. Then I'm going to remask this part a little higher, and I'm going to spray the clear. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling off the tape so that I can wet sand this line and blend the new color into the existing paint. So I'm going to use some 1500 grit wet or dry, and I'm just going to sand hard line here into the paint, because right now you can see where that line is. I just want to soften it up so that when I put the clear on, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Calling that good enough. So now I'm going to remask this, wipe it down with microfiber, and then we'll get the clear coat. I'll get it cleared. I pulled the mask off, and I want to give you just a quick look at how it turned out. I'm not shutting the door fully because it's got a seal on the bottom, and I don't want that seal to set in that soft clear. At least not until it's had a chance to dry for a couple of hours. This quarter panel, it's been sitting for, I don't know, just a couple of hours. The paint's still pretty soft. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I mean, the color match isn't exactly fantastic, but otherwise, it looks so much better than it did when we started. I'll put a picture up above me somewhere showing you before and after, just so you can get an idea just of how much better this looks. The next thing that I would do to this is I need to sand this clear line and blend it into the existing paint, and then I need to buff the entire panel. But the paint has to sit, or the new clear has to sit for a while. I think probably a week or maybe even a couple of weeks before I really want to tackle that. So as I said, I'm super thrilled with how it turned out. I mean, it looks as good as I hoped it would look. I sure hope you got something out of it. You know, if you're replacing the quarter panel in your car or truck, or you need to have it done, you just want an idea of what it's going to take. Well, this will give you an idea of what it's going to take. So I hope you found something there useful, at least if nothing else. I hope you enjoyed watching it. So with that, guys, I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for watching.